You worked for it. You stayed late at the office, took on extra responsibility, maybe even switched companies, and eventually it happened. The raise. Your salary increased, maybe from $65,000 to $80,000, or from $80,000 to $100,000. For a moment, it felt like progress, like things were finally moving forward. But a few months later, something strange happens. Your lifestyle looks slightly better, the apartment is nicer, the car might be newer, maybe you travel a bit more. But financially, nothing really changed. Your bank account still feels tight. You still wait for the next paycheck. And the question quietly appears, if my income increased, why doesn't my life feel financially easier? A realistic scenario. Let's imagine someone named Sarah. Sarah is 29 and lives in a large city in the United States. She works in tech support and recently received a promotion. Her salary went from $72,000 to $90,000. That sounds like a big difference, and technically it is. But after federal taxes, state taxes, and payroll deductions, Sarah's monthly take-home pay is about $5,500. Now let's look at where that money goes. Her one-bedroom apartment costs $1,900 a month, a car payment $480, car insurance $170, student loan payment $320, groceries and basic living costs about $550, utilities, internet, and phone around $260, health insurance and medical expenses about $300. At this point, Sarah has already committed around $3,980 every month. Then come the smaller but consistent expenses. Streaming subscriptions, a gym membership, cloud storage, music apps. Together, they might add another $120. Now the monthly total is $4,100. What remains is roughly $1,400. That might sound comfortable, but now we add normal life. Restaurants with friends, occasional travel, clothing, gifts, emergencies, replacing a laptop, a weekend getaway. By the end of most months, the remaining money quietly disappears. Sarah isn't reckless. She isn't buying luxury handbags or sports cars. She's simply living what most people would call a normal professional lifestyle. Yet the raise never created financial breathing room. The hidden financial shift. The mistake here is rarely obvious. It happens slowly, and it usually happens right after the raise. When income increases, people rarely keep their lifestyle exactly the same. Instead, they upgrade slightly. Maybe the old apartment felt too small. Maybe the older car started to feel unreliable. Maybe after years of working hard, it feels reasonable to enjoy life a little more. Individually, these decisions feel completely rational, but collectively, they create something powerful. They turn a temporary raise into permanent monthly obligations. The math most people don't see. Consider just one decision, upgrading a car. Before the raise, maybe Sarah drove a paid-off used car. After the raise, she decided to lease something newer. The monthly payment is $480. At first, it feels manageable, but over 5 years, that's $28,800 in payments. Add insurance differences and maintenance, and the total cost can easily reach $35,000 to $40,000. But psychologically, Sarah never experienced a $40,000 purchase. She experiences a $480 monthly decision. This is how modern financial confines quietly works. Large financial commitments are disguised as small monthly numbers, and because the monthly numbers seem manageable, the total cost rarely gets fully considered. The psychological reason. There's also a deeper reason people behave this way. Humans naturally adapt to improvements in lifestyle. What once felt like a luxury quickly becomes normal. Psychologists sometimes call this hedonic adaptation. At first, the nicer apartment feels exciting. The new car smells different. The seats feel better. But after a few months, it just becomes the car, and the financial pressure that came with it remains. This process slowly resets our definition of what normal life costs. And when normal life becomes more expensive, raises stop creating progress. They simply fund a higher baseline. The long-term impact. Over time, this pattern creates a strange situation. Someone can earn a strong income for 10 or 15 years, yet still feel financially fragile. Savings grow slowly, investment accounts remain small. Any unexpected expense, a medical bill, a layoff, a housing increase, suddenly becomes stressful. Not because the income was too low, but because most of it was quietly converted into fixed lifestyle costs. A different perspective. Financially thoughtful people often treat raises differently. Not dramatically, not aggressively, just more deliberately. When their income increases, they try to avoid locking that increase into permanent expenses. Instead of immediately upgrading everything, they pause. They recognize that the raise itself is temporary income, but lifestyle upgrades are permanent commitments. So they protect flexibility. They might keep the same apartment a little longer. They might delay replacing a working car, not because they're trying to deprive themselves, but because they understand something simple. Financial freedom rarely comes from income alone. It comes from maintaining a gap between what you earn and what you've promised to spend every month. That gap is where savings grow. That gap is where investment begins. And eventually, that gap becomes options. Getting a raise should feel like progress, but in many modern cities, raises often disappear into slightly higher living standards, slightly nicer experiences, and slightly larger monthly commitments. None of these choices are wrong. They're simply easy. And because they're easy, they quietly absorb the financial progress the raise was supposed to create. Once you start noticing this pattern, something changes. You begin to see raises not just as spending power, but as financial leverage, a chance to create space instead of new obligations. And that shift in perspective can quietly change the trajectory of your finances over time.